Alright, next up in our Swiss Schmidt Rubin rifles is the model 1896/1911. This was an 1896 at one time, but the Swiss modified them. Okay, so this is the version where there was changes made. And what the changes were is they changed the bolt originally on this when it was redesigned, henceforth 1896. But the gun did resemble the 1889 in its original form. So what it would have had is the 12-round magazine in the rear sight and a straight pistol or straight grip, which this one has been modified. That's telltale that they put a pistol grip on it. And also the flat here on the stock was retained. So it did look like this. Now if you want to see an original version of this, they're rare because most of them have been switched over. I'll put a card up and you go to Bloke on a Range. He's a British fella that lives in Switzerland, and he does a lot of videos with these rarer versions. He has a video of this in its original configuration. Okay, and what they did to make this in 1911 is they changed the magazine out, they changed the rear sight, okay, from the old one to the new one. Alrighty, and this was also the model. We'll pull the bolts out and look at them where the bolt got modified. But other than that, they tried to retain and recycle these guns to modernize them and get them to work with the new ammo. It was all about the ammunition, henceforth the different sights in that. Now there is some confusion about the barrel. Okay, I guess originally these things had the same 3-groove barrel as the 1889. I do not know. I was trying to look down this gun. I don't think it has a 3-groove barrel. It was kind of hard for me to get a light down there and try to gauge that. They may have been rebarreled. Okay, I don't know. And there's conflicting things in the books and whatever source you get. So that's something I'm not quite sure of. And yes, the difference between the 3-groove barrel and the 4-groove barrel makes a difference when using the ammunition. Okay, so that's something also. But go check out Bloke on a Range, and now we'll take a closer look at our 1896/1911. Alright, this rifle, same as the other one, how you operate it, the safety, how you take the bolt out. Okay. Also, this gun has a real lot of cool little markings all over it here. Okay, and it's got the P down there for private sale. All these little inspection stamps and all kinds of stuff on there. Pretty interesting. So if you're into the older guns and that, you will find that these guns are interesting with a lot of the markings they have. Also, this one has some interesting markings on the stock here. Here we go. I know it's upside down, but it's something there that none of the other guns have that. Okay, and this is one of the first ones, this 6-round mag, which comes out a lot more easier. Had the new sights put on there, and the barrel bands and everything in sight cover is the same. Alright, we'll take a quick look at it from the other side. See if we can get a good focus on this. There's a giant P, which means it was sold privately to the individual. Here's a good look at the new rear sight, gauged for 300 meters. The receiver on this is shorter, and when we take the bolt out, I'll explain. When we look at the bolt, this was the main modification, is the bolt itself. They changed the position of the lugs and the size of it, which allowed them to shorten the receiver. And we'll go over here and take a look at what we have written on there. There's a serial number and some lettering, and then the standard marking down here on the butt plate. Alright, here's an outward look at the receivers. I tried to get them lined up as best I could, but you can see the little grooves on the 1896 are different, and this is noticeably, this area here on the receiver is noticeably shorter. Even if we kind of move it, you can see there's a dip. There's quite a difference. It's about an inch, 5/8 an inch, something like that. I'm not quite sure, but that is one outward difference. Now, when it comes to the underside, as you see, the older style trigger guard went down in here. Well, this is where they grafted this pistol grip in, so they had to change the lower guard. And when they modified the magazine, if you look, we'll look at this side by side with a 1911. This plate extends out farther than on a 1911. Okay, and the reason for that is because where this lever mechanism and that they had to cover that up in the stock that was modified. Okay, here is the modified 1896 on the bottom and an actual 1911 on the top. Now, if you notice, the shape is different. This lower band on the trigger guard here is a different shape to compensate for where that lever was on that apparatus there. So that's another way you can tell a modification. This outwardly, if that pistol grip was spliced on. Now, you may find some where the stock was damaged and had to be replaced. And if it was replaced instead of recycled, it will look like a 1911. That's why the book is a valuable guide, because you have to go by the serial numbers to when the gun was made. Now we're going to look at the bolts and the differences in them. Alright, we're going to look at the bolts. I got a Vetterli bolt, the 1889 bolt, and the 1896 bolt. Now, what the big change was they realized that putting the locking lugs, which are here in this area, and this length, okay, you get leverage. When you fire the gun, you got to remember there's no locking lugs or anything. This is floating in the receiver, and it locks up all the way back here. Well, over time, the stress will bend this and wear it out, okay? So they said that's kind of a weakness. We'd like to change that. And if you look, I'm using the back end to give you an idea. They changed the locking lugs up front, okay? Modified this and shortened this bolt a bit. So now your lockup is here. The distance from the end of the chamber is less flexing where you had this gigantic distance. This is how they strengthen the action in the gun. Also, what was changed is if you look at this operating handle and how it engages here compared to this one, and you'll see that this also had to be modified, and where it locks up, that distance is shorter also, which I probably believe would make this a more stable, smoother action, shortening all this up, less flex, less nonsense. And both of these bolts come apart the same, okay, other than the lugs go here and the other one, the lugs go there. And the 1911 bolt is identical to this, so there's no difference in the taking it apart or anything like that. Now, why I brought the Vetterli bolt out is just to show you how, you see how they're kind of mimicking or going with an idea that's good. You know, this is kind of similar to the way the Vetterli design was. They modified it. And very interesting thing, also if you look, you put the Vetterli bolt next to that, you'll see the distance is almost the same on the modified bolt. Or if you look at the 1889 bolt, the distance between a lockup and the face of the bolt is almost the whole length of the Vetterli bolt. Where this one here, this distance is about the same. So maybe that tells you something. You know, the experience they had with this, they changed this distance on there. It's kind of interesting. You know, when you look at it in this light here, the distance is almost the same. Of course, the lugs are larger also. So probably from their experience with the Vetterlis, they used a lot of engineering principles to kind of get this thing up and running. But there you go. That's, in this rifle system, that's the big change. The first big change is the bolt. And then it wasn't until the 1911 they decided to go with the 6-round mag, and then went back and modified the older guns with the magazine. But the bolt in the 1896 was the first major modification. Okay, one last point on this gun. The original 1889 had this magazine cut off here, so when you operated it, it dropped the magazine down and wouldn't pick it up. But also when the magazine was active, it didn't have a hold open on it. And if you look here at the receiver, you know, where it takes the cardboard packet, notice how it is there. Now, when they took the 96 and modified it to a 1911, one thing is, if you notice, and somebody mentioned this, there's little notches here. They were experimenting with a metal stripper clip, much like a Mauser clip. And they never adopted it, but the guns were cut for them. That's what that is. Right there, those little notches in there. Okay, now this magazine, it's easy to remove. Okay, get it back up in there. There is no provision for a magazine cutoff. And also, ever since they start with the 1911, your floor plate comes up and holds open the bolt after the last round. Okay, much like a more modern gun. So that feature is there. And that's about it for the mags. Alright, in closing, probably going to have the question, and if you stayed with the video long enough, can you shoot GP11 or the new modern ammo in this 1896/18 or 1911 modified rifle? I don't know for sure. All I know is these older guns, okay, you should go easy with them. I'm assuming because the bolt's modified and that was a big problem, and changing the bolt, and there is no difference in the bolt from this in the 1911s, that it can. But I will tell you not to go easy with it. If you can hand load and get a lighter load in these older guns, probably better, and even the 1911s. Okay, the K31 is totally redesigned and can handle that ammunition with ease, without a problem. It's way stronger action. These older guns, I know the 1889s, you should not put that ammo in there. These here, I don't know. I would always recommend with the older guns just taking it easy on them. I know you guys out there that don't reload, that's all you got is the GP11 ammo. But, use your own judgment. The only thing I could say is over time, shooting a lot of it, it may bend or stress the action. Personally myself, I'm going to go with a light hand load in this, and even the 1911s, the carbine in that. I may even develop a cast bullet load, which would be a little nicer, lower powered, fun plinking, but the time and trouble of casting the bullets, putting a gas check on there, really ain't going to say it's going to save a lot of money, but it'd be nice shooting, just fooling around. Alright, so there we go, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned.